Went from this to now this. And when it becomes beneficial to her career, and it will, she will rebrand herself as white.
Okay, I'm gonna use the NBA to explain why white women hate being called white. White women are very upset with me right now because that video I posted in 2021 is resurfacing. I think for obvious reasons, because I was right. Ariana Grande did in fact rebrand herself as white when it was beneficial to her career. I'm not the only one who predicted this. Anyway, white women are pissed. So let's talk about why I think that is. First, let's look at some of the comments I've received in the last 24 hours, and then we're gonna break this shit down. Strap in, babes. How did I get here? You sound racist AF. You are the problem. White women live in your heads rent free, mind your business. You are the problem, stay in your lane. My personal favorite, this one we're really gonna break down in a second. Everything you said sounds like women being critical of each other. This isn't about color because this issue doesn't exist with men. The power of language is deeply rooted in the colonial structures of dominance and subordination. And these colonial ideologies have historically categorized and ranked people based on their identities, making whiteness and maleness synonymous with universal or neutral, meaning everything else outside of those identities require specification. For example, in sports, this colonial logic positions men's basketball as the baseline and women's basketball as the deviation from the norm. So we start off with the NBA, the National Basketball Association, not the MNBA, just NBA. And by linguistically marking the WNBA as women's basketball, society subtly reinforces the idea that the WNBA is some kind of secondary, often even lesser category, a category that requires specification because it doesn't totally align with the default. Picking up what I'm putting down. So inherently that classification reflects patriarchal systems of power, which have historically excluded and minimized women's participation in life in general, and of course in sports. Keep following. So the unmarked status of NBA perpetuates the perception that the NBA is real basketball, positioning anything else as some sort of deviation from that. Case in point, this is a comment I got literally 2 hours ago, unprovoked. No one cares about women's basketball. There's so many ridiculous reasons why people feel that way, but the colonial and patriarchal impact on language is one of those reasons. Bringing this back to white women, whiteness, much like masculinity, has long been treated as the default racial identity, which is why white people in general, but white women, don't like being called white. It disrupts their unmarked status and forces the acknowledgement of their position within racial hierarchies. They don't like that. It's also why naming whiteness, naming maleness can be seen as a little bit of an act of resistance against colonialism and patriarchal structures, and grants equal linguistic status to marginalized identities. Now let's take it a step further and address this comment. Refresh, everything you said sounds like women being critical of each other. This isn't about color because this is not an issue that men have to deal with. The dynamic of white women centering their gender over their race, specifically in conversations about power and inequality, is deeply rooted in the intersections of white supremacy and patriarchy. White women often align themselves with their gender discrimination while distancing themselves from the privileges they hold as white people. And this is why they hate conversations about cultural appropriation. They'll frequently respond to those conversations by saying, why do you make everything about race? Like, not everything is about race. It's just hair. They do that to dismiss the issue and reframe it as purely one of gender solidarity, which is typical. They've done that historically. For example, the first couple of waves of feminism. Yeah. So because their whiteness operates as an unmarked category similar to masculinity for men, it allows them to navigate the world without ever having to think about or talk about their race, without ever being really reminded of their race. So when race is named, it disrupts the narrative of universal womanhood that so many white women hold dear to their hearts. Anyway, that's why white women hate being called white. So as an act of resistance today, name a white woman's whiteness, call a white woman white, and just to see what happens. Be prepared for them to call you racist and get really upset. Like, be prepared, I'm telling you. Like, have some fun with it.